You assume that I have an obligation. If you're even going to give me the time of day, dude, you assume that I need to make sense when I'm talking to you. But in a world where there is no God, why am I obligated to be rational?
You're not obligated. It's just you can't expect me to take that in an intelligent way and actually process it. And there are some people like me and these people in this crowd that decide that they're not going to do things, take on moral assumptions, or live certain actions unless they've intelligently processed it. And telling me that Jesus came and died for me is not something I can intelligently process because I have no evidence of it, and the fact of the matter is, objectively, nobody has any evidence of it. There are private feelings that people retroactively claim is evidence of the existence of God, but I could claim them as the existence of Jesus or of homosexuality as being the supreme way of life. I could claim it as being anything, but
how do you know that?
How do I know what?
How do you know that? How do you come to conclusions about reality?
Well, there's a mathematical process that we call logic that's been studied, can be studied. There's a lot of dispute, but mostly people agree. And empiricism is the study of evidence which is commonly observed. Anything that can be commonly observed, private feelings that can't be transmitted, that people, things like God exist, there is no common observation of that. That's the reason why we don't believe schizophrenic people when they tell us about their friends.
Trust your senses and reasoning to determine whether something's true or not, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Insofar as I'm following the mathematical process of logic.
Sure. Did you sense that your senses were valid?
Did I sense that they were valid? I experienced them directly. It is observation.
So you sense that your senses were valid?
I had no other choice.
That's viciously circular. It's a logical fallacy.
No, it's not, because you have no other choice. No, it's the essence of proof. That's a misinterpretation of how fallacy works.
No.
You have no choice. What would you look like if you didn't believe your senses were valid? How would you go about anything?
I know that I can justify my senses are valid without having to appeal to a logical fallacy to do it, because just hear me out. I know you don't. I know you don't. No, but to determine whether observation is valid or not, you have to use observation, your senses, and your reasoning to determine that your senses and reasoning are valid.
Only if there exists a counterexample.
It's a vicious circle.
Only if
just hear me out for just a second. The reason why I'm making that point is that the entire atheistic worldview is built on logical fallacies and assumptions that can't be justified. But see, when you begin with God and you begin with a transcendent personal lawgiver that's created you in His image, has made your senses and your reasoning
function. How is that any more logical?
How
is that any more logical?
You made it up.
You tell me.
You made it up. How do you validate that?
Because without it, you can't know anything. Let me give you an example.
I can't know anything.
Just let me finish. In a world where there is no God, where we're all basically just molecules banging around. That's right.
Okay.
In a world where there is no God, where we're just molecules banging around, you can't account for immaterial abstract laws in a world where there is no God, because we're all just matter in motion.
Based on mathematics.
Hold on just a second. Yeah, but can you hand me the number 1?
Absolutely not. But
no, because it's an immaterial concept that you're a world you can't account for.
I can, absolutely.
Materialism cannot
it's a material
account for
concept. You're misunderstanding mathematics.
Can you give me a bucket of 1?
I can give you 1 umbrella. It's in your hand.
No. I'm not talking about the instantiation of 1. I'm talking about the concept. I'm not talking about the numeral.
Not a single educated mathematician.
Let me
give me a blue.
I'm not talking. No, because it's an immaterial abstract concept.
It's an adjective. It's a linguistic concept.
No, I don't think you understand logic, because you're doing things like mixing the order of numbers in a subtraction problem and giving me the same answer. Right? We know that that's wrong. That's what you're doing linguistically.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the basic preconditions of intelligibility.
But you're telling me I can't make up my senses, and then you're telling me the alternative is to make up God. My senses are here. It's simple observation. It doesn't require logical process. You're misunderstanding. Logical process is to conceive of these abstract ideas.
Did you reason to that, to come to that logical process that it doesn't require a logical process?
It's not a logical process.
Did you reason that it
No, I didn't reason my senses. You didn't reason your senses. I didn't reason my senses. They're here in front of me.
That's not what you just said. You said that it doesn't require a logical process to come to the conclusion that I don't need a logical process to come to my senses or understand that my senses.
I don't remember saying it nearly that many times, but I'll say it the way I meant to say it if I didn't. My senses require no logical process to observe. So how can it be? You are putting those words in my mouth when you construct the fallacy that is it requires a logical process to establish logic. I establish logic through my senses, which exist right before me. My senses are the only thing I have to experience the world and the things that are happening, and from that implies the entire system of logic. Mathematics derives from my ability to distinguish between the fact that you have 2 hands and 1 umbrella. That's because of my senses, and it makes perfect sense to me. Nothing doesn't add up there. But when you start to tell me about God, it doesn't add up. I can't observe 1 hand and two umbrella and one God. It's never been observed.
Nobody in the world.
I understand that. And so you say the only way we can know things are through our senses and our reason.
The only way we can know things are through senses and reason. Yeah, I think I'm with you on that.
Okay.
I wouldn't put it on my Facebook, but I think it's
I understand that. Make sure I understand what you're saying. You're saying logic does not exist.
Yeah, I'm saying that. I'll keep saying it, man.
Just make sure we get this on camera. Logic does not exist.
Yeah, logic does not physically exist. This guy's been saying it over and over again.
No. You said logic does not exist, and then you qualified that physically.
Yeah,
I've admitted from day one that logic doesn't physically exist.
Okay. It's just that I think that we have an audience of people here who have faculties in their brain, and I am appealing more to the part of their brain that understands mathematics and process than you are when you speak. And that's what I would cite that as evidence.
But you said the logic behind that doesn't exist, so how can they do that if logic doesn't exist?
We already answered that question. You can ask him for a copy of the tape.
You actually did a double-leg takedown on yourself.
I didn't do that, and I don't have anybody to impress here. I didn't do that.
My friend, we've got you on videotape saying logic doesn't exist.
We've got you on videotape. We've got you on videotape saying a lot of crazy stuff. So it'll be fine.
That may be true, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. I can repent, and that's what you need to do.
That's
because
really
you don't have a worldview that can make sense out of the very things that you're using.
If I had a morality that depended on supernatural intervention for me to feel better about the things in my life, I would consider myself an immoral person. Unless I didn't.
Based on what standard?
Based on the fact that I wasn't able to create morality and handle it on my own without believing that something was supernatural in that process. That's just an excuse. It's a lie.
But why do you?
Somebody else made it better.
Okay, well, what's wrong with that?
You should make it better if you did it. It's on you.
But so you're saying, but it's not on me. I'm not God.
No, yeah, but it is on you. You are the one who did it. See, that's exactly the problem. This God I've never seen, you are blaming him for this. You're blaming him. The concept that you have to repent is to is to ask God to take on, is to ask for his intervention, because there's nothing you could really do about it.
I live for America, I work for America, and I love this country, and I can't stand socialism, I can't stand communism. The only good communist is a dead communist. You want to say anything more? Thank you, sir. The only good communist is a dead communist. U.S. Army, do not do this for her. Please do not do this for her.
Don't hold your